I always believed that owning land meant freedom. My ranch sat on 25 acres of open space, rolling fields, and a quiet pond that mirrored the sunrise every morning. I moved out here to get away from crowds, rules, and noise. For years, life was exactly the peaceful dream I had envisioned, until the day I found the letter hanging on my front gate. The envelope looked strangely formal, sealed with a printed logo I didn't recognize. The words Heritage Valley Homeowners Association were printed across the top. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I wasn't part of any HOA. My ranch was outside the subdivisions, outside the paved neighborhoods, outside all of that structure. I lived rural on purpose. But when I opened the letter, my stomach twisted. According to the HOA, my land had recently been included in an expanded boundary, a decision approved by a committee I'd never heard of, never attended, and never voted for. They claimed they were now responsible for maintaining environmental and aesthetic standards in the valley. I was instructed to comply with new property regulations, pay monthly dues, and prepare for a scheduled property assessment. It sounded absurd, like a bad prank. I tossed the letter aside and ignored it. A week passed, then two. Then came the second letter, this one more forceful. It stated I was already overdue on my contributions and that non-cooperation would result in corrective action. They included pamphlets showing how property owners had been assisted into compliance before. Still, I refused. This was my land. My taxes were paid. No one had a right to just claim authority over it. Then came the unannounced visit. 3 people in matching polo shirts stood at my gate with clipboards, cameras, and forced smiles. They claimed they were doing an inspection, and I calmly told them to leave. They didn't like that answer. One of them said, "This is going to be much harder for you if you don't just cooperate." I didn't like his tone. I locked my gate. I made it clear they were trespassing. I thought that was the end of it. But the HOA wasn't finished, not even close. 4 days later, I woke up to the sound of diesel engines. Not one, not two. 10 massive garbage trucks rolled up my long dirt driveway in a line, like a convoy heading into battle. Their engines rumbled like thunder across the fields. And that was when I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was war. The rumble of those trucks shook the windows of my ranch house before I even made it to the porch. I stepped outside, boots sinking into the soft dirt, and watched as the line of garbage trucks came to a stop like an occupying army. The engines kept running, loud, aggressive, intentional. Dust rose in thick brown clouds around them. I counted again. 10. Not one for a job. Not even 2 for show. 10. A demonstration of force. The first truck's driver climbed out. He wasn't wearing sanitation gear. He was wearing the same HOA logo as the clipboard crew, only now it looked more like a badge of power. He approached me with the confident walk of someone who believed the law was on his side. "Morning," he said, too casually. "We're here to help you clean up your property." "Help?" I repeated. "My property doesn't need cleaning." He gestured grandly at my land as though presenting evidence in a courtroom. "Your barn area contains unapproved storage materials. Your fencing is non-compliant in design. The old tractor near your shed is classified as abandoned machinery. We received multiple community complaints." I laughed. I didn't mean to, but I did. "Community?" I asked. I pointed toward the open fields around us. "My closest neighbor is 6 miles away." He didn't laugh. "Sir," he said, dropping the fake politeness, "you were instructed to comply. You did not. We are exercising corrective action." I stepped closer. "Set 1 foot past that gate," I said, "and you'll be trespassing, and I will call the sheriff." He smiled this time, but his smile wasn't friendly. It was the kind that said he'd already won. "We spoke to the sheriff's office," he replied. "They're aware. You'll find we're well within our rights." That was the first moment I felt it. Not fear, but disbelief. How could they claim legal authority over land I had owned outright for years? How could the county allow it? Before I could respond, he raised his hand. The drivers revved their engines. One of the trucks moved forward and lifted, its massive hydraulic bin arm like a creature stretching its claws. They were really going to do it. They were going to throw away my property, my tools, my equipment, my supplies, things I used daily to maintain the ranch. I felt anger rising, hot, steady, and clear. I walked to my truck, grabbed my phone, and started filming. If they wanted a confrontation, I was going to document every second of it. The HOA representative's expression tightened. "This is what happens when owners don't cooperate," he said. And with that, the first truck lurched forward. The first garbage truck's brakes screeched as it backed toward my barn. I could feel the vibrations through the dirt, through my boots, through my chest. I shouted for them to stop, but the men acted like I wasn't even there. The HOA representative just stood near my fence line, arms crossed, watching me like I was the problem, not the victim. I kept filming, narrating everything. I wanted evidence. Proof for the sheriff, the court, the county. Anyone who could stop this madness. But in that moment, I realized something critical. They were counting on me to lose control. If I snapped, if I pushed someone, if I threatened anyone, they'd twist it into justification. They wanted a reaction. So I forced myself to breathe. The truck moved closer. I stood directly in its path. The driver hesitated, engine still revving, waiting for a command. The HOA rep stepped forward. "Move," he ordered. "No," I answered. He didn't blink. "We have authorization to remove unregistered materials from the property." "These aren't materials," I snapped, voice sharp but controlled. "This is my livelihood. My tools. My ranch equipment." "It's clutter," he said coldly. "A violation." I could feel heat rising behind my eyes. My voice dropped to something flat, steady, and unshakable. "Show me the authorization. Right now? Paperwork. Signatures. Legal approval. Otherwise, you leave." His jaw flexed. He expected panic, not logic. Reluctantly, he pulled out a folder. I took it from his hand and read every line. That's when the truth hit. The HOA hadn't expanded legally through county ordinance. They had filed a request that had not yet been approved, meaning their boundary claim was not binding, meaning their authority here was not legal. They were acting early, counting on compliance, fear, and intimidation to make their claim real before the county review even finished. They were bluffing. My laugh wasn't amusement this time. It was disbelief and fury. "This isn't authorized," I said, holding the papers up. "This is pending, which means you have zero legal authority here." His face paled. The drivers looked at each other. The confidence in the air evaporated. "You need to leave," I said. "Right now? Before I call the sheriff again and show them this." The HOA rep opened his mouth to argue, but at that moment, my phone buzzed. The sheriff was calling me back. I answered on speaker. The sheriff's voice came through, stern and clear. "Keep them there. I'm on my way." The HOA representative finally stepped back. But what I didn't know then was this. They weren't retreating. They were regrouping. And the next move they made would be worse. The sheriff's truck rolled up my driveway with the urgency of someone who already expected trouble. The deputies stepped out, hands resting near their holsters, eyes scanning the 10 garbage trucks. The crew of HOA representatives. And the tension thick enough to cut. I walked toward them, paperwork in one hand, camera still recording in the other. The HOA spokesman approached, ready to spin his narrative. "Officer, we're here performing authorized community maintenance. This owner is refusing to comply with." The sheriff held up his hand before the man could finish. "I've already reviewed the boundaries," he said, "and the expansion isn't approved, which means this property is not under your jurisdiction. You and your crew need to leave this land immediately." The HOA rep tried to argue. He tried to imply miscommunication, pending approval, public good, all the phrases bureaucrats use to turn theft into policy. But the sheriff wasn't buying it. His patience evaporated in front of all of us. "You step past that gate," the sheriff said sharply, "and I will arrest every single one of you for trespass and property destruction. Those trucks will be impounded." Do I make myself clear? The sound of 10 idling engines was the only answer. One by one, they backed down. The crew climbed into their trucks, shifted gears, and rolled away. Engines roaring in retreat this time. Dust swirled in the air as the convoy disappeared down the road. But victory didn't feel like relief. It felt like the beginning of something bigger. The sheriff leaned in quietly. "They're going to come back," he said. "Not with trucks. With lawyers." He was right. A week later, I received a thick envelope. This one full of legal threats, fines, assessments, claims that I owed the HOA thousands of dollars for refusal to comply. They were trying to bury me in paperwork where force had failed. But the problem for them was simple. They picked the wrong rancher. I hired counsel. I gathered documents. History, land deeds, maps. and every minute of video I had recorded. I attended county hearings. I made sure my voice was heard, and I wasn't the only one. Other rural owners stepped forward, people who'd also received letters, threats, or friendly compliance visits. The HOA had been trying to swallow the entire valley by expanding its borders quietly before anyone noticed. But we noticed. After 3 months of hearings, petitions, and testimony, the county unanimously rejected the HOA expansion plan. Our land stayed ours. The HOA lost. As for me, I still wake up every morning to open fields, quiet air, and a sunrise that belongs to no one but the land and those who respect it. Freedom has a price, and I was willing to pay it.